I didn't set out to build a fund. I basically set out to build a platform to help young people build great companies.
Because a lot of people just say about this guy who built Venture Spark. Who is this guy? Where did this come from?
We are very complementary.
I see the perfect combination in Dotun and in Kola. They don't overpromise and underdeliver.
Now, it doesn't matter if you are the one people call when things are going well. But the question is, are you the one the founders reach out to when they have problems?
My people just message me that, oh, there are two hefty men looking for me at the office. So I called Kola, I'm like, Kola, what is happening? Nigeria is stressing me, and so it was like, oh, don't worry, I'll pick some calls.
The story of Tribe Group will not exist without Ventures platform. And I do not say that because it's 10 years anniversary. I say it because that's what it is for Tribe Group.
He went to war for us multiple times. Kola fought for us every time he had to.
Ventures platform is one of the funds that is going to see the best opportunities.
A bunch of African managers built a firm that is uniquely positioned to support African entrepreneurs. And I built layers and layers of support around that.
Because the reality is I didn't set out to build a fund. I basically set out to build a platform to help young people build great companies, and everything has happened very organically from that original first principle idea.
Primarily, the commonality between us and any venture capitalist or any other investor is to look for an asset, nurture it, and sell it.
I met Dotun around 2016 when Ventures Platform started, and he was running his own business.
I was running a company called Starter, which is ecosystem development startup development firm, where we help startup, we work with, we consult with startup, we help with events and helping startup founder to think about how to build a high growth business. Part of that, I used to host what is called Silicon Drink Up. And the idea of Silicon Drink Up is to bring founders together with potential investors. We started in Lagos. So just free founders will come, investors come, and they will just meet and drink, and then people have connections that way. And in the early days of Silicon Drink Up, we have lots of founders that you have now come there. I know Paystack, when they just came back from YC, they came to that event. That was 2016. Then the first edition I hosted in Abuja was at Ventures Park. It was Kola after then. And I remember, I didn't know him before then. His team was one that my own team worked with. And I got there, it was a lovely space. I just fell in love with the space. And then I met Kola later that evening. And that time when I meet people and you see pictures of me, 2016 with bandana, you will see that. So I always go with a lot of bandana. So if I meet you, you see a picture of me with E, with Mark Essen, with a lot of people that I met, that with Bosun, the current minister. I will give you a bandana, and we both I wear mine, I will take pictures. So that picture I'll send to you as Kola and I wearing bandana. That's why I know that was the first time I met him, because if I meet you for the first time, I give you a bandana and I'll wear it. So later in the few days after, we started talking, and I realized that this guy, I learned about his story, and similar to my story, went to the UK, he went to the US, came back, and has this vision about contributing to Africa, and that's what I had as well. Then few weeks after, I hosted him on my podcast, and I flew to Abuja to interview him. And that was when I heard about his story deeply. And I think that was the first time he will be sharing his own story that way, publicly. Because a lot of people just say about this guy who built Venture Spark, beautiful Venture Spark. He's not even in the main ecosystem in Lagos, and he has this accelerator program. Who is this guy? Where did this come from? But it talked about his story in that podcast, and we connected well after that interview, and we just noted there's something here, and that we both have in common, because I shared my own story after we stopped the recording, and then it was in Bristol. Forgotten many months after that, but it was 2017 he came to Bristol. Before then, I invited him to speak at my event. So he came to Lagos, and we also hung out a little bit. But he came to Bristol. and we were talking, we were having a drink. I remember that it was a place called Old Duke. Old Duke is a famous place where it's a famous pub for jazz. Uh, Some of the famous jazz musicians are there. So we were just there outside having a drink in an evening. And he was talking about what he wants to do next with the accelerator. So he was saying that accelerator is done good stuff, but the next level will probably raising a fund. And prior to that, I have also been thinking about what do I do next with Starter. Yeah, Starter is doing this consulting, doing this ecosystem, but the real thing I want to do, and that's the thread about my story, about me, what drive me was I believe billion-dollar businesses will be built in Africa. My job is to support entrepreneurs building it. That's the goal of Starter. That's the mission of Starter. So when you meet somebody in Starter that works with me, we say, our billion-dollar business will be built in Africa, and our job is to support entrepreneurs building it. That's my own goal, or my own mission. So, and I believe that the next phase of that is to raise a fund, but I don't know how to go about it. And Kola was talking about raising a fund too. We just look at each other. Maybe we should explore it.
We were aligned in terms of values, and we always sort of toyed with the idea of working together. And so being able to sort of execute on that by him joining the firm, I think is really a great outcome in the sense that we are very complementary. There are many things that he enjoys doing that I don't necessarily enjoy, and there are many things that I enjoy doing that he doesn't necessarily enjoy. And I think that's the making of a great partnership, you know. And as we grow as a firm and we bring on other people, make partner, we hope that we can continue to sort of build on those complementary skills.
I remember when I was in Abuja, when we were still exploring working together, I was spending time with him. I went to his church. And then it's funny, we have a common taste in church, right? Not churchy type of place where the word of God is preached. So we have that. The second one is family. We're both optimized for our family, and we're obsessed about our family a lot. And that is very important. The third one, which is you can see it between us, is how we treat others. There is the tendency to want to help rather than asserting our own self. And you can see that in two trends. One is the Yoruba concept of omoluabi. Very important to both of us that we have to be omoluabi. We do everything possible to be fair, to be kind, and to be good and to be honest, but not weak, but to be good, honest. And omoluabi is not a weak person; it's a just fair, strong person.
You know, in a market where partnerships are a bit difficult, I see the perfect combination in Dotun and in Kola. So I enjoy engaging with them. They don't overpromise and underdeliver. They promise and they push the objective. They stand toe to toe with founders. They're hoping that things don't go wrong, and if they see a sign, they very quickly alert all of us to a problem, an impending problem, but more importantly to a solution. And for me, that's the key to why I'm proud to be associated with both of them, proud to be associated with the fund, willing to spend my time a little bit extra in the middle of all the other things I do. I'm committed to saying, look, the LPAC has to work because the varied nature of investors, the very different way that these guys are trying to dimension the market, and more importantly, their commitment.
We really genuinely want to contribute our time, energy, intellect, and resources to moving the society forward. Genuinely, not just extracting. Of course, we make money out of it. We're both we both know the importance of money, so we're not just doing this because we are monks. We want to be successful, but we want to be successful by moving other people forward, and that is a common thing. So I was leading a team, and he's leading a team, and the interaction with his team, they speak well about him, and he interacted with my own team too. They speak well. So that was that we're not jerks. So that common value is there, and it shows itself in the way even when there's disagreement, there is the commonality of we're not doing this for transaction. So Colin and I, we will forgo financial gain if it's going to impair deep relationships. So it's very important, and I care about that a lot.
Coming back to Nigeria, I was very frustrated with a lot of the gaps that I was seeing around me, and you know, the options that I kind of landed on were you you either just go back or you stay back. But if you stay back, you have to do something about it, right? You can't just complain, right? And I think I chose the latter.
Africa is inevitable as a growth and as a changing market. The most young people in the world are in Africa, and they're well connected. Well, so that was the thinking, and these people, they have access to the technology that their parents don't have. So I started thinking about that. So actually, yes, we are more connected than our parents. We live longer than our forefathers. We have access to the right better technology than everyone before us. So that means, again, because I'm a student of history, we can solve our problem faster, better than generations before us. And we face a different challenge than generations before us. If you cast back 150 years ago, the biggest challenge for African is slavery. 60 years ago, the biggest challenge for most Africans is colonialism. 40 years ago, the biggest challenge for most Africans is economic independence and thinking about what sort of economy do we want to build on a continent. The biggest challenge now that we have is relevance and growth, and utilizing the right technology, every wave of technology for our own livelihood. And I believe technology or innovation will play a very big role in that. Because now a young guy in Lagos can build a product that can impact thousands of people. That's where that belief comes from for me.
Innovation changes an entire society. Who would have thought that Nigeria would have more than 1 million phone lines? When I landed in Nigeria, there were less than 400 and something thousand phone lines. Most of it is in corporate Lagos. That's it.
You have to go back to that time. This was, 2009 going into 2010. If you weren't doing oil and gas or real estate or infrastructure, no one was listening to you. There just was no risk capital for software or soft things or technology more broadly.
The big thing that brought about this prosperity, that defined it for us, that put a language to it, was the book Prosperity Paradox. When I read the book, actually it's the first book that I would read, that I would write a whole summary, like many pages. Everything I was just writing. I have a whole summary of the book. And same impact with colors were independent. We didn't even talk about it. Same impact, and it was blown by the book. And of course, the book became, when it was forming the fund, the book became the bedrock of our philosophy.
We are a very metrics-driven organization. We've evolved into an organization that is constantly measuring different things. And one of the things we measure is whether or not we are the go-to investor when things are bad.
I was in San Francisco, thankfully, and my people just messaged me that, there are two hefty men looking for me at the office. I was like, why are they looking for me? Apparently, somebody's wife used their card on Paystack, and they reported to the security apparatus that, and then the person in Abuja just said, go and bring them. And this man just came to Paystack to come and bring us, and then the reception was like, the founders are not around. They were like, well, we need somebody to take to Abuja because our boss said we should bring somebody. That was really, really crazy. And so, which was very annoying because the lady actually had to say, you know what, I'll go with you. And then they were like, we don't have a flight tonight, so we have to put you in the police station overnight, and then we'll take you the next morning. So I called Kola, what is happening? Nigeria is stressing me, and so it was like, don't worry, I'll pick some calls, I'll talk to, And so eventually we had to send somebody else there to go talk to them, but at least we knew that there was someone that was checking in for us and stuff like that.
Now, it doesn't matter if you are the one people call when things are going well. But the question is, are you the one the founders reach out to when they have problems?
Ventures Platform was known as a founder-friendly VC firm. And they had shown that as well with the turnaround for Thriver Greek. Like that was a very public showing of what it meant to be founder-friendly.
The story of Travel Group will not exist without Ventures Platform. And I do not say that because it's 10 years anniversary. I say it because that's what it is for Thriver Greek.
You have to remember, I'm an entrepreneur myself, right? I've been in those trenches and I can empathize.
And after investing, he didn't just invest, he went to war for us multiple times. And we don't have to go into the details, but Kola fought for us every time he had to. He took meetings for us. He got on flights for us. That's what I think Ventures Platform's role in this ecosystem is, and that's how important they are.
When you make an equity investment, there's no guarantee that it's going to work out. What's important is the level of agency, the industry that is brought to the endeavor, and the learnings that folks can take away from it.
We came in for the first interview, and after the interview, I think a day or two, we were told that we had passed to get into the next stage to be incubated. And that was the best news I'd had at that time, right? Then I left Benue State temporary to come to Abuja.
You know, the Thrive example that you gave is an interesting one. We were first investor in that business, deeply involved. They were in the second batch of our accelerator, I think, and we witnessed tremendous growth in that business.
Primarily, what we had experienced was first-hand mentorship, right? Aside the funds that was given, we were told on how to grow a business from idea to execution. And I think that those were some of the things that we never had learned before coming in, right? And I think that was really important at the start of the business.
And so the business was very linked to Ventures Platform, but also very linked to me, such that when the challenges started, I started getting people sending me messages. My money's trapped here. I meant to use it for surgery, use it to go to school. And then I think one day, the day it really became loud in my head was I was out of the country somewhere, and I get a call from someone in Abuja, a leader of this country, that, look, Kola, what's going on? This company that you guys supported, I've been talking about them around the world. What's going on? What are we hearing? And I realized that this was an issue of national importance, because this company had become a poster child for the Nigerian startup ecosystem. And so we were already supporting through the crisis, but it became systemic, and obviously we rolled up our sleeves and got into the trenches. And a year later, 2 years later, the company had even about 10x where they were prior to the crisis. A great case study of really dealing with crisis head on, effective communication with stakeholders, and building back better from a challenge.
From my interview with him, I actually just figured that he was somebody who had a mindset of building something for the long term. He he was already operating like with a sense of, if you knew him at the time, you would see that whatever he was or whatever he was thinking about for Ventures Platform it felt bigger than business. So there was already this obsession with building things that mattered and not just things that looked impressive.
I would say I was immediately impressed because he had a physical space where it looked like it was amazing for founders to work.
We wanted to build a place that people could
be proud of, that represented the best of Nigeria, that really showcased both the intersection of art, of creativity and technology, of construction, of architecture, of all these various art forms. We wanted to create a space where, and we still hear about this today. I meet people and we're trying to kind of figure out, how do we know each other, or is there a, and then Ventures platform comes up and they're like, oh yeah, I know that place. And we wanted you, when you think about a place, I wanted you to feel something, right? And so, as you said, all of us we're all bought into the mission.
If you speak to people who started Ventures platform 10 years ago, or who joined the team 10 years ago, one of the things they will tell you is that they firstly invested in Kola's integrity and his vision before they even invested in the firm. And by that I mean working in VP.
What was amazing about the VP team, and I can say this, that everybody in the early days deeply cared about the mission, deeply cared about how do we enable founders, and truly supporting people in building things that they care about and things that could be very additive to the growth of the economy.
I'd always loved startup support, founder support. That was my niche, that was my area. And so to do it for a focused group of companies within a fund was particularly of interest to me.
My introduction to Ventures platform and what drew me to join Ventures platform was actually the culture. And I think you can often feel culture from the way you engage with people in the recruitment process. I just felt that Ventures platform is a company that actually cares.
Something happened last year that really made me feel like, wow, we've done something here. So we invited a firm to come do a culture audit, a culture assessment, and they spoke to all our team members. They had confidential interviews. And in the end of the exercise, they came back to say they've been doing culture audits across Africa. And our culture is one of the most, I think they used the word, not compliant, one of the highest rated corporate cultures they've seen in all of their assessments.
The reputation for Ventures platform was just a firm that cares about people. And I am someone that also cares about people, and so that was basically the driver of me joining VP.
And so I was like, this is an opportunity for me to join a clean slate, a company that is just starting out to invest. And maybe I could play my part in helping them shape how they think about investor-founder relationship, supporting founders, and essentially being the type of investor I wish I had when I was building a company. And so those two things drove me to say, you know what, I need to be part of this, right? Yeah, so one was the mission and the vision, and the fact that the person cared about it, and it came through in the video where he spoke about it. And the second was, I had my own personal agenda, which is, I wish when I was building, I had a certain type of investor, and now can I go and become that type of investor to other founders?
It's incredible to see how far we've come from those sort of from the early beginnings and some of the discussions that we've had. And frankly, I think I'm really grateful to be journeying together and to be doing the things that we said we would do. We would invest in great companies, would return capital to our investors, we'll run a ethical, high excellence organization, and we would seek to leave a dent in the ecosystem. So we're not insular. We're not just thinking about the firm. We're thinking about the community and the ecosystem. We're not also doing everything. We're very focused. We don't claim to be a firm that can help you with everything. For instance, we're not the most technical firm in terms of engineering, right? We know what our strengths are. And yeah, it's incredible to sort of have the team to execute on that vision.
for me, getting to know of what Ventures platform was long before they invested in us. So Kola himself has a reputation that precedes him that I greatly respect. And we share a common investor as well as a chairman on my advisory board, which is Benga Oyobode.
Look, I saw in him a young man who was committed, dedicated, loyal, patient, attention to detail. And in one of my very first engagements with him, we talked about everything.
He has a vision and he has the clarity of thought of what he wanted to achieve. And he actually throws it open and shares it with anybody that crosses his path. And at that time, I was completely convinced that there is something. I think he realized early on that you need guardrails. Just because you have money does not necessarily mean that you are going to have a successful business.
And I think really at the end of the day, it was important that there was promise. So the future is always an investment in that promise.
I think that through investing in this part of the world, we have an opportunity to create and unlock a new capital stack that is somewhat or largely disconnected from legacy. So I'll give you an example. We were privileged to invest. I was privileged to invest in Shola of Paystack early on. Shola went to school in Nigeria. Came from a standard Nigerian middle-class family, and went on to do an exit at $250 million. I mean, that's crazy, like, success story.
A lot of Nigerian founders who've come home from like the Ivies, Harvard, Stanford, and nothing against those universities, but then there's also us, products of Nigerian universities. And at the time, people with perceived, pedigree were edging out home-educated and homegrown founders. And people like Kola were leveling the playing field and are still leveling that playing field.
The investment we got from Ventures Platform was very timely and very useful. I think there were about 3 buckets of things that they did for us that really changed the game for us. So the first one, which surprisingly is because Ventures Platform had a cohort of founders then. They gave us a lot of exposure to that cohort. So a lot of our early customers came from that cohort because I think it was 12 people in that cohort. And once you have a cohort of founders that you can support, they can also just tell their friends about it. And so I would say just that connecting us to other founders was very, very helpful. That's the first part. The second part is a lot of the, I want to say, government relations. As you know, I'm a developer. I just want to build stuff. I don't want to talk too much. But I think Kola specifically has been was very helpful. I think generally, if you're operating a tech startup in Nigeria, you're operating in the context of a very complex environment, and you need an investment or an investor like Ventures Platform to help you navigate some of these things that you absolutely cannot even navigate yourself.
So when Ventures Platform joined us, we were not in Nigeria, and I think this is a really interesting element, that we were a non-Nigerian business that they invested in that was heavily East Africa focused. And that, for them to do that, I think was a massive leap of faith. Today, we're in 5 markets: Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Mozambique, and Zambia. By the end of this year, we will be in an additional 4 markets that are in deployment, which include DRC, Gabon, Ghana, and Niger. Currently, we are the leading embedded finance provider for mobile operators. We deploy about $60 to $70 million a month in loans to individuals and SMEs in their channels. We've secured over $2 billion in balance sheet to be able to lend to through these channels. And we have a massive channel diversification strategy that today includes a group framework agreement with Airtel, a group framework agreement with multiple banks. So you're going to see us coming into multiple markets beyond those that I've mentioned.
Ventures platform is one of the funds that is going to see the best opportunities in the country. And so you always want to, just from a purely financial perspective, a lot of investing is having access, and it's very clear that Kola's got access.
VP would be like one of my go-to investors any day, anytime. They've been amazing in terms of like the support and how they've just constructed. So now there's something that they're doing now, which is just like portfolio support, and they've constructed a whole function around it. And I think they do an amazing job.
I think that some of the qualities I'd seen in the ecosystem was the boldness to take a bet, right? In many things that actually could have failed, and that boldness still existed, right? And I think that there were quite a number of businesses, there still exists a lot of businesses who required that level of boldness for bets to be taken.
Ventures platform and Kola, and Dotun, they need to continue to exist. And I've told him this because they're a systemic fund to Nigeria's tech ecosystem. And it's not because there aren't other funds, it's because funds come and funds go, and VP has just sustained. Who speaks for you when you're not in the room? Ventures platform is one of those. And I think that Nigerian founders, young Nigerian founders, inexperienced Nigerian founders, we continue to need that.
When we look to back investment firms, we look to back firms which endure, stay the course, institutionalize themselves. And so it's really great to know that Ventures platform is turning 10.
The VP brand, I think, is synonymous with the kind of energy that you see in the African VC space. I think the first time I met Kola was probably back in 2019 when we first started looking at Fund 1. Since then, seeing the journey that VP has gone on has really been, it's been amazing to be a part of that journey. Both Kola and Dotun have such different energies, but come together to form something that's really a great achievement for the ecosystem.
The story of Ventures Platform is a story of a community of support from our board members who, I'd approached early to join the board. We didn't raise any venture capital, but I knew governance and accountability was important. Mr. Kiari Buka has been our chair. He's been an incredible pillar of support. To some of our early syndicate members that joined our first vintages and continue to invest with us. I can never forget Michael Sibel, who's just been a strong pillar of support from day one for Ventures Platform. To all our team members, present and past, pretty much everyone that has worked at Ventures Platform and has moved on continues to be a part of our alumni, talking about us in rooms that we were not in. But our team members today that have keyed into sort of our culture, that are all very missional, believe in what we're doing, and make this really work. It's been an incredible community of support to our investment committee members and our advisors, folks that are part of our expert network, our venture partners, but perhaps most importantly, our portfolio founders. The reason we exist, the reason we're here, who give us the incredible privilege to be a part of their journey. And I think just as importantly, the ecosystem and all various players in the ecosystem, like Tekabal. I mean, without the stories and the documentation that you guys have done over the years, this ecosystem wouldn't be where it is. So thank you to the entire community of support that has really been a part of our journey and that have made this possible. Thank you.
2036, entrepreneurs looking back and thinking about the story of venture ecosystem on the continent. And at that time, they would have seen a lot of businesses that are doing well. They would have seen a lot of entrepreneurs who have proven that venture startup works on the continent. They would have actually seen the impact of startups. in Lagos these days, 3 or 4 out of 10 billboards are startup billboards. So it's mainstream. At that point, they'll be more mainstream. But I want them to also have in mind 2036 as an entrepreneur is, first of all, this VP will still be on by that time and would have backed a lot of companies. But if we look back at what we're doing now, is that we are laying the foundation, or we're laying on top of the foundations of how to properly support African tech entrepreneurs. How to uniquely support them, not just with foreign capital, because a lot before now, 10 years before now, most of the investors that invest on the continent directly as a VC or as a fund are foreign. What I want them to see is a bunch of African-led firm with African managers who have built their business on the continent, who are grown up on the continent with entrepreneurial parents and understand the pain of walking on the streets and seeing poverty side by side with prosperity and seeing how Africans can build great businesses out of hardship. And they see that Ventures Platform are being able to interpret all of that and use that uniquely to support entrepreneurs.
Deeper into the continent, deeper into the life cycle, deeper into the infrastructure that makes African founders globally competitive.
VP next 10 years. But I mean, 10 years we should be the sought after ecosystem leader. You know, you're looking for thought leadership, VP. You're looking for good talent, VP.
Ventures Platform, next 10 years, best private capital allocator globally.
So my wish for Ventures Platform is to embrace the idea that this is a long project.
Definitely rooting for them. From my own corner, I would always be a VP. I always stand VP, right? Any day, anytime.
It is clear to me that they will be the leading African VC.
What a visionary. That's it. That's what I want to say. That man is a visionary. Give that man his flowers. You see him on the road. Squeeze 2K enter your hand.